Hey guys, so my guest today, I believe, has a very interesting life journey. He was working with Elon Musk in SpaceX, a space exploration company, during the times when this company was still a startup with 100 employees. After he realized that it's not his kind of thing, he took some time off and he just spent some time with himself. He wanted to really figure some problematic things in his own life for himself, and he wanted to find a sense of direction in life. What I find intriguing is that the breakthroughs and the realization he took and he used them in a creative way, and he created a comic franchise called Mania. And not only this comic franchise was successful, he was also invited to speak in the Comic-Con conference as a panelist in a panel discussion about mental health. And today he is a coach and he's helping his clients to discover passion and take their lives to the next level. So welcome today, Jeremy Lasman, and enjoy. So I want to start from the beginning. Could you share more about the project that you were on which you were working with Elon, and how the things were going, what you learned from him, how the cooperation was?
Sure. Yeah, I was brought on in SpaceX back when it was a startup, and I started in the IT department. So I worked with the chief information officer on servers, help desk troubleshooting, and all the technology side back end for SpaceX. And then as they grew, I kind of took more responsibilities on the marketing side of things and kind of was the technologist for video production, like the music videos, the rocket launch videos, trade show videos, and then the launches, like the webcast when we streamed the live launches.
I see. How big was the company back then?
I was employee number 110, I believe.
110, like 110, right?
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. How was it? Like, what was your personal experience with Elon?
Incredible. I mean, the energy of the startup of like being the first private company to launch a rocket into space, because prior to that, it was only governments and countries that were launching rockets. And so to be a part of a company that was doing something so pioneering was amazing. And just like the technology, the cutting edge, the exploration of it, the energy of that. And then Elon is just like so focused, so on point on just like driving forward and not wasting time and wanting it better and better and like efficiency. And it's an intense energy, but the passion is just through the roof.
Yeah. I guess you really have to feel it from from deep inside the person that they really want to do it, because to actually make 100 people believe in the idea that something like this is even possible in terms of like financing and the like resources management and going against all the odds, that must be something enormous.
Yeah, I mean, and Elon put literally all of his money into it. Like I've heard stories about like he had to ask people for rent because he put everything he had into it. That's how much he believed. That's how dedicated he was. And yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think this is what happens when someone's vision is way beyond like the monetary satisfaction from it, right?
Precisely. Totally.
Did you have any, because I guess if someone works this hard for this long, it definitely has to have some downsides, right? Did you have any of these experiences, or?
For me personally, no, because I wasn't a part of like the engineering team or like the launch ground operations team that had to work, 24/7, literally like 24/7 kind of schedule, because he wants everything done, yesterday kind of thing. So I definitely heard and saw people and had talks with people that were like, burned out and things like that. but for me personally, I was like in the IT department. So I did have some of the, long hours and all of that. But for me, I didn't really get too bogged down within that. And then just in my empathy for Elon, I could, that's a lot of stress to carry, to be the CEO of, well, at the time it was SpaceX, but Tesla and all of the things that he was doing as the visionary, but then also the micromanaging, and you can tell there was a lot of stress, but I think he thrives in that. And the vision, like you said, if the vision is bigger than the person, then anything is possible, right?
This is like, it's an interesting thing you said that he thrives in it, because it's such an amount of tension and it's such a huge game he plays in terms of, he makes marketing announcements of things that, like, he sets deadline for things that are not even like considered real yet, and everyone talks about it. And usually, like people are trying to avoid this, so that the expectation are not that high, but he actually infuses it, and this creates such a high tension, and he is able to work in this tension and still like remain calm and grounded. It's very unique, because I would say most of the time, usually people are avoiding this kind of tension. So to be able to ground all this, it really takes an enormous psyche, an enormous, I would say, wiring, or I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, totally. Like I can remember in the early days when I was there, we would have the launch date for November, and then it would just keep getting pushed back and back, but there was always like that date, but then the delays and all of that. So he does have that ability to see that the dates and those announcements are like the manifesting energy of his belief. But like you said, he's very good at being unattached to it in a way that it's not connected to a pride or like an identity of like, if I miss it, then I'm a failure kind of thing. Or if I miss it and everything is in shambles. It's like it's very good at just being that guiding force of like direction. And I feel like you said it, he's really good at that.
Yeah. I have so many questions prepared for you, Jeremy, and I realized I didn't really introduce them in the beginning. So I'm going to do it now. So we already talked about your participation in one of the early stage of SpaceX projects and your cooperation with Elon Musk. But for those of you who are listening, Jeremy also created a groundbreaking comic franchise called Mania. And then he spoke at the Comic-Con conference in California. I think it was San Francisco, right? San Diego, sorry. And then he dove even deeper in the self-development and self-discovery. And today he works with imagination technology, and he's helping people to get through their boundaries and to help them discover their passion and help them let go of their limiting beliefs from childhood through unconventional work, I would put it this way. And I want to talk about one thing that I remember. I realized actually back in the room when we talked about this the last weekend in Barcelona. We talked about singularity on 22nd of February 2020 at 22:22. Like, how scary is that? So I wanted also to touch the topic of singularity and what are your thoughts about it, and so that like more people have understanding of how it works.
Yeah.
So tell me more about how the switch happened from space discovery to moving into the comic books and comic world.
Yeah. It was amazing. Pioneers Live. I think we should let people know, like, it was that's where we were in Barcelona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So after leaving SpaceX, I was at this point where almost like taking stock of like, how did I get here? Where am I going? Those kind of inner questions where I didn't have any answers. And I had really felt like personally, I didn't have a connection to my own creativity. And I didn't know what passion was in terms of like what it was supposed to feel like, other than like loving technology and that kind of energy of just like building my own computers. But in terms of like the directing of it into taking ideas and bringing them to life, I felt like I had a disconnect there. And so that led me into personal development. And early on, it's like, I want to fix myself. Like that's the, that's the approach, is because you feel broken when you don't know yourself, and when you have been living for other people and being a people pleaser and being the good boy and all of those kind of being an empath, like sensitive, and you don't want conflict. And I was facing all of that stuff, and I started to do therapy and just really started to journal, meditate, all of that stuff. And there was this one idea that started to rise to the top, a concept that any negativity, any suffering can be switched to the polarity can be switched to a positive by your outlook on it, by being willing to entertain new perspectives. And I started to do that with my emotions, started looking at things from a new angle, and started to heal some of those traumas, I guess you would say, like in terms of how shameful I felt about myself, my low self-esteem, and just feel like saying like, oh, I can turn this around. Like there's a mechanism here, there's a muscle here to switch from a negative to a positive. And I felt like there's a message here that I would like to share to people, but I don't know how to do it, because I had felt like if it was just me saying like you can do it, it's like there was no energy for me. But it was just like that was not what I wanted to do, just to tell people what to do or tell people how it is. And I realized, oh, this is how art, this is what you're supposed to do with art. But because I wasn't creative, quote unquote creative, I didn't know how to make it something. And so I connected with a writer who, I don't know if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons before, D&D.
Once or twice only.
Once or twice, but he's a dungeon master. He does like all the world building and leading the games and all of that. So he has a really brilliant world building mind. And I started to just jam with him for a little bit. And pretty soon I shared my concept, and he was like, that would be an amazing story. It would be an amazing comic book, is where we ended up. But the idea of turning disorder and mental illness, all of the things that you can't accept about yourself, or that you think is wrong with you, or that is not normal, and turning that into a superpower. And that's where Mania was born, was that concept, and taking that concept and infusing it into entertainment and into a story with these superhero characters, and having that message be transmitted in that vehicle. And that's Mania, because it's
I see. That's pretty amazing to turn it around this way. And it's actually it's like undercover help, right? Like you know about this stuff from a place of genuinely wanting to help others, but not really being in a place to do that like a therapist or a coach. You create a comic that's aimed at changing people's perspective so that they can look at their own stuff differently. That's amazing.
Yeah, without telling them that they have to do it or telling them how to do it. Like that's how I feel personal development is best transmitted, is when it's and it's left to the other person to make the dots, connect the dots, and make the shifts themselves, because they're coming up with it themselves. It's not like I'm telling you what to do, or here's the right answer. Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I have to say that my theory just got proven because like I had this like ongoing argument with some of my friends who are really believing in conspiracy theories.
Ah,
And I was trying to disprove that, but that's like a fuel for the conspiracy theories, right? Like if you try to argue. So then I turned it around and I started to argue that I also believe in conspiracy theories, but in a positive conspiracies. So there are people
ah,
conspiring to make my life better, and I don't know about it. And they're secretly plotting on improving my life. And that's it. This is it, right?
I
Basically.
love that. I'm gonna use that. That's great. I just don't. There's conspiracy for me.
Yeah, yeah, and there are no arguments against it. Like,
Love it. I love it.
um, I think I've read that after some time of having mania in the market and being there in the world, you actually spoke on mental health in that Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
How did this come together, and what did it affect your next development in any way?
It came about just through some networking and a person on my team that was able to connect with one of the women that is in charge of putting on some of the panels for Comic-Con. Because I don't know if you're familiar, but Comic-Con, it's a whole weekend event, and they have a whole bunch of panels throughout the weekend. And so we were able to just find this topic that had a lot of potential, and shared it with her, and they created it for us. And we found some amazing guests, including myself, to be on the panel. And it was amazing because it was that's probably one of the biggest audiences I had spoke to up until that time, in physical, like, you know, in real life, not just on a Facebook
Yeah,
Live and having, you know,
in the
viewers, but
offline world. Yeah.
yes, yeah, exactly. Um, and so, yeah, getting to share my message, my mission, my passion, and then getting questions is my favorite thing, is to answer questions, because it's my human design. But yeah, it was heartwarming because I got to see firsthand how it impacts people, and that, like, aha moment where people are like, whoa, that is super cool. I can see myself in that. I can see that's what I've been doing. I've been learning how to do this, and how to transform what I feel is my struggle into my strength. And that, to me, just it hits my heart, because, like, that means that my art is reaching people, and that it's influencing and helping. And I think that's what I want.
Yeah. It feels good listening to you talking about it. Like I can see that it's really coming from the depth of you, and it's real for you. And
Yeah.
it's I love to see when someone is doing is working in a way that's artistic, that allows them to go into their self-expression, and people like it in terms of artistic perception, but at the same time it gives value on self-development, or kind of on healing past, changing perspectives, and improving their lives.
Yeah.
So speaking of this, you mentioned earlier that you had these empath traits, or I call it a nice guy syndrome, which is like something most men today go through, like avoiding tension, avoiding conflict, and not being aware of our emotions. So what helped you the most to get through this period of your life, and to help you get out of it?
Oof. Well, I mean, understanding and awareness is so important, because when you're unconscious to it, I mean, that's when it, like, really has its full force over you. You're like a victim to it. Um, oh, learning that what I was feeling as a highly sensitive person, the biggest awareness, the biggest light that helped me see something, helped me connect the dots, and insight, was the idea, or the vision that not every emotion that I experience belongs to me. once that set in, and I was able to like almost be the sifter, the organizer of like, some emotions are individual and are mine, and then also some don't belong to me. Some I've been a sponge and taking them from other people and pretending that, or not pretending, but falling to the illusion that they are my emotions. Because that's what empathy is the ability to read another person's emotions and take it on as your own. And when you're unconscious to it, it feels like everything that I'm feeling is mine, and I'm being burdened and overwhelmed by all this shit. But once you can see like, okay, does this actually belong to me? Does this experience, does this emotion, does this feeling belong to me? And then you're like, no. All of a sudden now you're getting more space to just like, to be sensitive, but to not overly identify. And that to me was the game changer for finding out what the craft is of sensitivity. And then as a craft, you practice, and then sometimes you get thrown to the ground and you fall, but then you get back up and you get better and better at your craft. And then all of a sudden now I'm using my craft to serve people and to support people by being that precision tool to, you know what, I'm feeling in your field, like, are you feeling this? And they're like, oh yeah, like, how do you see that? And I'm like, I'm just sensitive to energy.
So you can literally like, that's actually the point when you said that what was the curse in the past, that what was dragging you down is now turning into your advantage, and it allows you to help people through being aware of what's happening inside of them, even though they're unconscious of it.
Right. To the superpower, because like intuition and supernatural gifts and clairvoyance, clairsentience, all of those, things are, if you're not aware of them, then they're going to seem like curses, because all of that information, all of that data that you're processing, it's going to take its toll if it's being processed through fear and confusion and all of that. But once there's love there and compassion and understanding, now it's like, there's the tool, there's the focus of it towards how to use it for power.
Yeah. I had a question, but now I've lost it. Because in the meanwhile, what came is that Tony Robbins is describing this as a personal meaning maker. We all receive enormous amount of information and data, and in like just somewhere here, or let's say inside the head, there is a meaning maker that transforms all this data into meanings, and the meanings create the emotion. So if you can change the meaning, you can change the emotion anytime and make it more empowering.
Exactly. That's that muscle.
Can you share some example from your life when you were feeling an emotion and you realized that it was not yours, and it allowed you to release it and to get more control over your surroundings and your own life?
Yeah, let's see. Definitely, I would say with certain people, certain family members growing up, their pain would definitely affect me. In terms of like me taking it on as my own and commiserating with it, and my personality would almost fuse, or the chameleon personality would take on that pain as my own personality. That's how crafty it is. And so when I saw like the ability to understand their negative worldview from that new awareness and their pain, then I was able to have that choice of like, that's not my pain. I don't need to take that pain as my own, as a sign of my love for them.
I see. I see.
Does that make sense? Yeah, like,
Yes.
because when it's unconscious, or when you're a child, like, that's how the love bonds kind of entangle, is like, my pain is your pain, and how I feel is how you should feel. But as you start to get older and more into your own power, it's like, do I really want this personality of negativity to be who I am? Because I didn't want to feel as negative and cynical and pessimistic about life, because because of that negativity, I couldn't believe in spirit. I had no school spirit. I didn't feel a part of the community. I felt like a loner, because I'm a pioneer, of course.
Yeah.
But then starting to own that more, you see, like, I can still love this person and not have to feel their pain firsthand.
Yeah.
And that causes some conflict and some drama, but that's part of awakening and owning your power, I feel. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it makes perfect sense, and it reminds me of one story from my environment where my grandma, she's amazing. I feel like the older she gets, the more fun she is. Now she's 82.
Yeah.
But I've noticed the pattern around her that used to trigger me a lot, and I would be upset, and like I would be feeling like she's taking my freedom away. But once I understood it, I also felt very relieved. And what I think was happening there is that maybe growing up, she got used to she created this pattern, or this meaning maker, let's say, that when she feels pain and someone sympathizes with her, that's an expression of love.
Yes.
So for her, like, expression of love would get perfectly mixed with the expression of pity. And it's funny how it works both way, and how, like, nothing is good or bad. Like, it has both sides. So my interpretation today is that when she was young, she was really craving this love that she did not really get. And because of this, she realized that when she goes into self-pity and when she goes into pain, she can actually take this love from those around her. Like, she can get this love. But the thing is that this circuit works both ways. So anytime she gets love today, she goes into self-pity. And that just blows my mind. How it just, like, how it just sticks together. And I realized, like, this was the hardest thing to admit, that I was doing the same thing at times. And knowing this was super helpful in actually in being able to give and receive love more freely.
That's a huge realization. Like, especially as sensitive empaths, that awareness to know how and where am I giving my power away to someone else, and how do I take it back?
Hey, this is a random question that just popped up. Have you ever thought you're weird?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know I am. 100%.
I'm asking because of my own experience. I'll share later, but I'm curious about yours. Did you ever did you ever struggle with that? Like, you had, like, serious thoughts about, like, okay, this is serious. Like no one's this weird.
I mean, yes, the transformation, or the journey of it, was like, growing up, you try to fit in. So, like, that was how I dealt with it, is like, the attempt to fit in, the attempt to please people, to get people to love you. But as soon as I, saw those patterns and like, didn't need people to approve of me to love myself. Like, I didn't need validation, or like, you start to face, like, oh, do I need validation from others in order to feel good about myself? Like, that journey of transformation then is like, oh no, now I can just own it fully. And the people that will love me will still love me, and the people that don't really resonate will fall away. And that's okay, because I'm not giving my power away to anything. Nothing and no one has power over me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly the same thing that I did. I was always fighting. I was always fighting it, like not really not really fitting in past. And the moment you start to admit, like, yes, I'm weird, and I might be the weirdest you'll meet today, like that just makes it so much easier.
Mhm.
And it releases the whole thing. Because in the end of the day, who's not weird? Like everyone is weird in their sort of way.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to switch now to your next big project, which is your passion today. And I don't even know where to start from, because like you on your website, there are multiple names for the work you do. I found like the field of passion, imagination, technology. So how does this work? Can you describe very briefly, or like take as much time as you need to, so that people can understand what is it that you're doing?
Yeah. So I always like to kind of start off by saying passion is my passion. So as a artist and as a scientist, like I see both sides of my brain kind of as the scientist and the artist kind of coming together. Passion is the field of study that I've been researching. So it is something that I look at as a field of study that is going to help advance humanity and help us evolve in an accelerated way. So because I mean, passion to me is like where it's like the most volatile, but it's also the most fire for being alive, for being alive here on Earth. So from that, imagination technology was invented or created, however you want to call it. And imagination technology is comes from me being a big picture, the gifts of my big picture imagination, and the way that I look at the evolution of our performance, our brain, our consciousness into the next levels. So the easiest way that I could kind of paint it is going from being animal consciousness, being animals, to like intelligence evolved and became human, and then from human, now we birthed technology, or the Industrial Revolution, and that was the technology, that was machines. Fast forward to computers and machine technology with information technology. So as going from industrial to information based advancement, right? Like what computers have allowed us to do, and how it's accelerated exponentially our connection to the planet. Being able to, you're in Slovakia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm able to have a conversation from America to Slovakia, like live. Like that's what technology has allowed us to do. Is it's connected and made distance kind of irrelevant in a way, and that's all from information technology. Like we're transmitting ones and zeros through the internet to be able to talk to each other right now. And so that's ones and zeros. That's binary, or in the human sense, it's duality. And that's where humans have been, is in that self-conscious state of duality. But what's next? That's what I've been focusing on in my pioneering work, is like, what's next? And that's where imagination technology has come from. It's when we get out of the data and the information, the ones and zeros, and we go into quantum. We go into both ones and zeros, neither ones and zeros, and right in between, where it's not necessarily data anymore, but it's energy.
Mm-hmm. I see. There's a lot of stuff to take in, so I'm
That's all right.
I'm thinking about. So, do you think what role do machines and humans, or and these interactions between humans and machines, play in this development? Is it that the machines will go sideways and the technology will go sideways and it will continue just with humans being supported by the machines, or there will be any mix in, I mean, like fusion in terms of how the future will look like, or how will it look like in practice?
It's a really, really good question. So based off of the fear, I want to say this as simply as possible. So based off of the fears that come from the survival of the fittest mentality or operating system, which is the primal animalistic protection of the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are separating human and technology, or human and machine, as like two separate entities almost. And that causes a lot of fears, because now we're talking, and the entertainment, the media is like, okay, humans and AI become like these, what if AI gets too powerful and it's going to kill us all, and we get those fear narratives and the meaning behind that, right? So when I say imagination technology, what we're really getting after in terms of the oneness of everything, and the unity and the harmony, is that looking at our body, mind, spirit, soul flow, the big picture of our multidimensional being. We're not just the body, we're not just the mind, and there's this beautiful architecture that creates a human being. That I see as a technology in itself.
I see.
That is it. Biology, chemistry, physics, mathematics. It's a whole. It is a machine in and itself, when we allow the metaphor to really expand. And so consciousness as a big picture field, if you want to call it that, it is one big machine. Nature is a machine. Technology is a machine, and it's all coming together, like you said, like a fusion or singularity, where pretty soon we're going to have, like, it's already here, and Elon's working on one too, like Neuralink implants, so that we can connect more with technology, and transhumanism as a philosophy, and I was like, or with the military, where, you know, if you lose a limb, they're able to put a machine arm on so that you can have mobility. And we're already doing it. It's already here, where the machine integration with humanity is bolstering us and augmenting our performance, and allowing us to go through the limits of biology with that. And so that's going to continue. And when you're on love, when you see reality as love, it is going to be a collaboration. It's not a competition. That's the survival mentality, is it's competition and scarcity of resources and fear and all of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're awakened to more of the truth of love, you see that consciousness is collaborating with itself, and we're awakening with technology, and technology is awakening with us, and it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing working together.
I see. Wow, that's a powerful reframe. That's a powerful reframe. I think it's going to be quite hard to explain this to people who are afraid of their jobs being taken by technology and AI. Yeah. But I can see it in there. And now when you said that, about the new definition of technology, I'm thinking about what actually is the distinguishing feature today between, let's say, humans and nature and technology. If you take this as co-working or like mutually cooperating systems who grow something out of nothing, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
And the only thing that comes in mind is that the nature had been verified through evolution, and we kind of have this trust or I have this trust that when everything goes wrong and like the human race will be wiped out from the face of Earth, the nature will deal with it, and sooner or later, which might be millions of years, it will be blooming again. Like there will be forests and birds and animals and stuff. Whereas I don't have the same feeling about technology yet. So I wonder if we can actually get there, or I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? Because like I'm not aware of technological thing that would have this feature, that it's going to be sustainable, self-healing, and self-improving by itself compared to nature and like systems in nature.
Yeah. So again, that dynamic creates the separation. So nature versus technology, it becomes a conflict because it seems like they're different systems. But if I ask you, what is the source of nature?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, well, those are the big philosophical questions, and like here, the science and psychology meet spirituality, I would say. So something like oneness or the all, the universe, God, whatever is the technical term, but like that which encompasses everything.
Yep. Right. And yes, it's philosophical, all different words, but and we could use like consciousness. To me, it helps to understand this, because if we
consciousness
yeah.
is a synonym for me.
Yeah, good. So if we allow the spirituality to integrate with the science for a second here, because when we say nature, we're saying science, and when we say spirituality, we're almost going towards that other side of like the technology of the species. But like, allow me to get more precise here. Is like, if we can say that there is a source before this, then nature and technology are coming from the same source.
I see.
So organic intelligence and artificial intelligence are coming from the same infinite intelligence. And when we can grasp that, then the separation is no longer real. That creates the like, nature's so far different than technology. When it comes and converges into the same source, then we see that if it's the same source, then we just have to release the fear, and now we can go parallel, and that's where the collaboration comes.
I see. It's a powerful reframe, and I get it intellectually, but emotionally it doesn't fit in yet somehow.
Yeah. The logic hasn't connected with the emotion.
Yeah.
The insight.
It's stuck somewhere in the middle of the hemispheres.
Exactly.
For the moment, but it makes sense. I mean, logically it makes sense. I think it might be easier for people who are really into technology and who really are on time with the latest advancements and who really have faith in it. And actually, those are the people who will be creating the next level technology, which can get us to the place that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I would just offer emotionally, we're all only speaking in metaphors, but when you use the word mind or the brain, do you see that it is a computer?
It is and it isn't. in my worldview, it is to the moment where when you're driven by the survival mechanism, which is conditioned into you during the first years of life, and then it's being like repeated again and again and again. So so the part of the mind that's designed to make us avoid things today which would cause us repeated pains from the past, that is the computer. This is the computer part. But the moment you cross that emotional level, when you don't feel emotions like apathy, sadness, fear, desire, anger, pride, shame, guilt, and you get into courage and acceptance and joy, love, peace, these are the places of creativity. And I think this is where the self-realization happens, when like the true potential, I mean, I don't want to say use true potential because just so many people use it, but like the true essence of you, like what is it that is really you, can come out. And this part is not as a computer. I mean, you can always say it's a computer if it's a part of like a sort of a supercomputer, like the consciousness we talk about. But that's again based on the definition of terms. If you can,
right?
Because I don't think computer can come with a creative solution, because it's always based on some algorithm. And even if it's random, then it's like, even if you take like a random combinatorics and you create something out of this, it's random, and that's not creative. I think like creativity has a certain emotion attached to it that must goes from somewhere. And I think I've completely drifted off your original question, but like, my thoughts.
No, you're totally on it. But the intention of the question was like to point out that humans aren't just nature. Like if we can say that the mind is a computer, then we already are part nature and part technology.
I see.
If we take that metaphor kind of deeper into the emotional connection, that in terms of allowing that whatever was keeping it intellectual, for that understanding to see like we're not as separate from the technology as we think we are as nature humans.
I see. So talking about these topics, from your presentation back in Barcelona, I know that one of the ways how you can achieve emotional releases, trauma healing, is the change of perception of time. And actually, like this is the part when I was not very clear on how it actually works. And I would love to find out more from you how it actually, what is your definition of time, how time works, and how you can use time to heal our psyche. Those are like 5 questions. I'm sorry for that. But
yeah, no, I'll do my best. So time, chronological time, is a tool to give structure and continuity to experience. It helps to understand the seasons, the moon, day and night. It gives structure and meaning to the earth traveling around the sun every 365 days, the rotation of the earth every 24 hours, like measurement. Time is measurement in consciousness. So with my work on taking this discoveries of Albert Einstein, who created the theory of relativity, the theory of general relativity, which unified time and space as one concept. Prior to that, space and time were separate. And people weren't aware of themselves within that construct. And because it was a very separating, self-conscious based existence. And so what relativity did is it allowed space and time to become one unified concept, which totally changed the paradigm on physics and the human paradigm. So I'm standing on those shoulders and taking it like one step further and saying the hypothesis that the body doesn't exist in time.
Mm-hmm. Let me just, can I just make a short note for,
yes,
maybe for those who are not, like, who cannot jump into that so quickly, or maybe,
yeah,
maybe to check if I'm actually thinking about it correctly. So the space-time linkage lies in the fact that if you travel at the speed of light, the time stops. So if you travel through space at the speed of light, the time stops. So and if you travel through space in at the very low speed relative to the environment, the time gets expanded. So 1 second can last. It feels as if 1 second lasted a year. This is the space-time. This is the space-time linkage. Okay. So and then okay. So and you can go on.
Yeah. So the one that really speaks to me and allows me to grasp. Do you remember in school the last period of the day where you were watching that clock go to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. and you were just like, when is this day going to end? And it just seemed like it was like that last period was just lasting forever versus summer days when the days were just, you just were playing all day and it was just like amazing, like, and the days just felt like they were like went by like that. That's relative.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard it in an example when you get your finger burned, 1 minute feels like an hour, and when you're with hot woman, 1 hour feels like a minute.
Exactly. I love that. So obviously time, relativity, and our emotions are very connected, right? So the hypothesis that the body doesn't exist in time is counterintuitive to how we navigate it and how our emotions and our memories and our the way we identify with the past and the future. Because I know you're in personal development, you know that if you're too identified and obsessed with the past, it creates like anxiety, or the future. It creates like anxiety and stress because it's like the time is you're in the future. You're operating in the future, so you're anxious. And then if you're too much in the past, it's like you're in the regret and all of that, and you're not present.
Mm-hmm.
Because we think we're the person in the past and the person in the future. But if you can take an experiment with this hypothesis that the body doesn't exist in time, all of a sudden now the amount of time that you're carrying can be examined and released a lot more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say there was a traumatic event in your childhood that was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a mark, and it creates like an anchor of time there, and all of a sudden now it's a burden that you're carrying in your shoulder or in your back, or you have a pain that is because you feel like you're the person in time, and you're carrying this time through years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what creates chronic pain, chronic illness, mental illness, is because this time that you believe is real is being stored in your body.
Ah, I see now. I see. Mm-hmm.
And when you can see that the body is not actually in time, then that stuff can be brought and seen and seen for the illusion that it is, that it's just carrying the past with you.
Mm-hmm.
In your body, you're carrying it, or in your mind, you're carrying it as like this bundle of energy that you feel is real. So you're making whatever that past memory is, it is real, but it's also not real from the sense of it's not here now.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it, just let me see if I get it correctly. So the view of this mechanics is following. So when a traumatic event happens at a certain moment, let's say 20 years ago, so this event creates, in space, it's realized as like some kind of muscle spasm, let's say, or some kind of like, let's say, neural energy stored somewhere in the body. And it progresses and potentially grows with time, right? So if you can take the time away, you release the space kind of the I don't know how to put it, like the physical manifestation of what this actually caused.
Right. It's like a container.
Yes. So the way you work with it is that you release the time element, and through this, the space element or the physical element removes by itself.
Exactly.
Which is like the opposite of what somatic therapists would do, for instance, that they release the physical element, and if they release the physical element, the time actually goes away by itself. It doesn't matter that it happened 20 years ago, because now they're in acceptance with it.
Right.
I see. It's super interesting. It's super interesting. Yeah. It's like a fusion of physics and quantum physics with psychology, which is something I've never heard before.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, fusion is a good word, but it's a synthesis.
Or synthesis.
Because, part of the talk was like looking at the brain as the silos of knowledge, and psychology is a part of. Would you say it's a part of science or philosophy, or psychology is a science, right? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's categorized as science. If you take the etymological view, like psyche is the spirit in Latin, I think. So like the theory about the spirit, difficult to say.
Yeah. So it's about like looking, I mean, and then logic, we have logic with that, but it's about looking at the brain holistically as how can we take down the separate silos of knowledge and let everything synthesize, let everything play, let all information play, instead of looking at the field of science over here and the field of creativity and all of that over here, or spirituality, and they're like separate camps that can't talk to each other.
Yeah.
But as soon as they can play, now psychology can play with spirituality and really make things way more efficient.
Yeah.
And fun.
And I would say in the end, it creates simplicity. Like if you really have to unify those, you need to find what they're based on together, and then you can distill the principles and make things more simple. And if it's, I don't know who said that, but there's a quote like, if it's complicated, it's most likely not true.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this interview. I have so many new impulses I'll process in the next few days. Nice. And before we wrap up, for anyone who's listening, where can they find you, or how can they follow you?
Yes, so they can either go to my website, jeremylasman.com, or find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. You can direct message me there. And I'm sure we can put them in the show notes as well.
Okay. So thank you very much again, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thank you very much for this. It was awesome. See you later.